Hey everybody, welcome to GMG review. Now we're into part 3, or maybe part 2, don't know what order you watch these in, of my review of the Legions Imperialis rulebook, and this one's focusing on the Solar Auxlia. Now if you missed the review of the Legions Astartes Armylist, or the set of overviews for the rulebook itself, like the core rules, then you can open the cards and check that out, or wait until the end, it'll be in the end title card too. But right now we're going to focus on the poor bloody infantry, the Solar Auxlia, who are, spoiler alert, they're really, really good in this game. This is almost like an epic tradition that the Imperial Guard, they don't shine necessarily on the Imperial Guard, the Imperial Army in this case. They don't shine necessarily in the 28 mil game. They do real good when there's lots of them. Their tanks are incredible, and this is no joke, I think probably a great expression of that. In the two sort of like army list format for Legions Imperialis, the Guard kind of own the ground while the Marines own the sky, which I think is fairly appropriate, but you got to lean into your strengths. So let's talk about this army. We have here in the rulebook sort of two example armies. One's a Subcohort, the other one's an armored company. Both of these could easily be built out of the core game with a couple of extra models, although you don't really need anything extra to make the Subcohort. The Auxilia box set for the Subcohort company is fantastic. It is more points than the Marine one, ironically. I think it's 250 points, just bare bones, and has the models to make a whole bunch of support attachments, including my favorite, the Kharanite Ogre section, as well as the heavy sentinels. They get to go off and do basically whatever they want. And then if you add some Bane Blades to the Solar Auxlia Army Company, you get the Russes and the Malcadors in the box set. You've got a secondary formation you can take as well. So talking about the army list in general, remember the three things about mustering an army that you need to know. One, you have to pick your parent army, whether or not it's traitorist or loyalist. That can have knock-on effects when you're picking like if you want to have allied Legions Astartes in your army, what side they're going to be coming from. It also means that you have to pick a parent army list to have, so your formations have to come from that parent army list, so Solar Auxilia or the Astartes. Now, 70% of your points in the army have to be from that army list. You're playing, like, let's say, a 1,500 point game. You can have 450 points of anything that you want allied-wise, so it could be Titans, it could be Astartes, but 1,050 points need to be Solar Auxilia. This is actually pretty easy to accomplish, and is different from the last edition of this game, Epic Armageddon, because previously these like all of the avionic stuff, so like your Thunderhawks, your Thunderbolts, all of those things, your DACA jets, they fell into that like allied allowance. They were support points, and so you kind of had like you either take planes or you don't. In this, they're part of the core army list, which is great, and it frees up point value to do other things. Now, your special rules for the army itself. You don't get faction rules the way the Legions Astartes do. Instead, you just get a set of universal rules, and that's it. Because you're not exceptional. You aren't the Astartes. You're just poor humans. You get close formation fighting. Now, this is one of the reasons why when I talked if you watch the box set review today, that also went up, or if you watch it in the future, because people might watch this not on launch day, you'll see where I talk about buildings being really important. They are a key feature of the core rules, and I talk about that in the core rules review as well. They get the Solar Auxilia really benefit from being able to go in and out of buildings, and that's because of close formation fighting. If they're in contact with another model in the same detachment, they get +1 of their close assault factor. That adds on top of any pluses from being inside buildings. So you get +2 close assault factor just for being inside a building and garrisoning it, which means you're always, when you're in a building, considered to be in base contact with at least one of the other model as long as they exist, which means you're a better fighter, or you're the same quality of fighter as a charging Astartes, just like tactical squad, when you're in a building in your Solar Auxilia. You gain a ton of like protection from doing it, and you're the poor bloody infantry. You should want to go into buildings. So then that's your first special rule. Then you've got the Solar Auxilia Command Instructor and Tank Commander, which gives you the chain of command rule. Now, anything with chain of command, they can only get advance orders. That's a huge deal for some things like the Ogrins, where they're not allowed to charge unless they have a boss nearby to tell them to do so. Advance means you can move and shoot, and for the most part, that's not a huge restriction because that's what you're typically gonna be doing anywhere, but it does pull you out of being able to do first fire and charge. It's almost like you're always worse than broken unless someone's around to tell you what you need to do. Your commander has a HQX special ability, any unit or formation that's in range of that ability can be issued any order they want. So they basically are in command and control. This is, I think, probably a good thing because you are so dominant on the battlefield that having some sort of like penalty to your order structure and just getting first fire all the time is pretty important. Tank commanders can have an upgrade, or sorry, tank formations can have an upgrade called Tank Commander. If you get that, they gain the HQ 6 ability and their morale goes up by 1 to a maximum of 2+. So those are your core rules. And then we're into the different formations. They're basically the same as the Marine ones, just the Solar Auxlia version of it. The Subcohort is just like the Tactical Demi Company. They get no special rules, but they are restricted to only being able to have your las rifle formations taken by las rifle tertios. You have up to 3 transports, 2 supports, a battle tank, and a core, and then the option of either a vanguard and light armor, or an artillery battle tank and air support as your last 2. This is pretty important. You really want that vanguard choice because the vanguard choice is going to allow you to take your Ogryns, and the Ogryns are, or sorry, the heavy sentinels, and the heavy sentinels are they're 60 points. They're very decent gunfighters. Think of them as like slightly less fighty dreadnoughts. And 2, this is basically allowing you to use the entire sprue of the Auxilia company that comes in the plastic box set and the starter set. So your compulsories are an HQ, a support, and 2 las rifle tertios. And then, like I said, you've got some support options and stuff too. But you can easily fill this out of those 2 frames. So your compulsories are the las rifle tertio, your HQ, and your support. You can have 1 legate for every 1,500 points of army, so you don't get that many commanders in there. That's actually a big restriction for you. Otherwise, you would just buy cheap 16-point commanders and stick them all over the army. Lots of transports, and transport options are fairly few right now, but I'm sure they'll expand as the game goes on. Armored company, it's the same as the Marine one. It's battle tank, heavy armor. One of the units can be upgraded to have a tank commander for 10 points. That's different from the Marines, but they need that. And then your Pioneer Company is 2 Bastion units, an HQ, and a Storm section. The Storm section has to be not the Tertio. It's the Auxilia Velaterra Storm section. So your Axe guys can be part of that. And then your Bastion units are things like... no, I went too far. Are things like your Rapiers and your Tarantulas, I'm pretty sure. Your Rapiers and your Mole Mortars. I think they call them quad launchers. I'm still going to call them Mole Mortars because that's the coolest way of talking about them. Oh yeah, your Rapiers, your Tarantulas, sorry, in this case. They get forward positions. Compulsory core detachment slots in this formation must be filled with Velaterra Storm sections. All Solar Auxlia detachments within a Solar Auxlia Pioneer Company that consist entirely of infantry models gain Infiltrate. All other Solar Auxlia detachments gain forward deployment to make a free move. So that means that your Rapiers and your Tarantulas, who count as infantry, get to deploy anywhere you want. So you can kind of take forward positions with them, which is very cool. The Pioneer Company, I think, is going to have a lot of value once those models come out, the Tarantulas and Rapier models. I am really hoping that that box set is both sides of the same coin. And that's it. No air wing, because you get air units in everything. You can have an air unit in the Subcohort. You can have them as part of the support choices for the Armored Company, and you can have as a support choice or an optional attachment in the Pioneer Company. So like I said earlier, the Marines rule the sky the way that the Solar Auxilia rule the ground. You can have a Legate Command attachment for 16 points, like they're super cheap, and you can see here, these guys, 6+ save. They do get invulnerable 6+, though, Master Tactician and Inspire 8-inch, and then 10-inch range for the HQ, right? So they get to give orders up to 10 inches away. They're very important, and you want them to attach to something that's not going to die. And then your Tactical Command attachment for 10 points. It's still an HQ, though, so you need to be able to take a separate thing like the Solar Auxilia Pioneer Company to get that. So you only have one of these guys, and the difference here is he only has a 6-inch range for his HQ ability. And you can easily make both of these things out of the box set. In fact, you're going to have the extra pieces from that core box to make the Tactical Command attachment. Just put extra las rifle guys on, take out some of the special looking dudes. Then your Tertio, like I said, these guys are really needing that Inspire. Morale 4+, no close assault factor bonus, and a 6+ save. This is why they love buildings, because they can sit out of them and shoot their las rifles. You can get Ignore, Cover, and Light, though, Flamers as an upgrade, and they're cool. They get 2 of them. You can take them as a separate attachment as well if you want. Your Veltari and your Ogrins can be added to these guys. I do like taking the Ogrins as a separate troop choice though. Ogrins in a building are almost unmovable because they have close assault of +3 and they have Furious Charge, which means they get to roll 2 additional attack dice all the time when they're charging, which is amazing. Oh, sorry. Furious Charge, when they do that, they have Rend, which they get their extra attack dice all times. They always roll 3d6 when they're fighting. They are absolute murder machines. So support, you can take them as well as a support of 4 models, which you can actually make out of the box set. Same with the Veletaris, you can make your Pioneer Company. Unfortunately, because you don't have the Rapier Battery models yet, you won't be able to do that certain company. But I painted on my Veletaris simply so that I could make a Pioneer Company in the future when that stuff comes out, because I want that ability to forward deploy. Your Vanguards, the Heavy Sentinels, again, right out of the box set, so you're gonna probably take that optional choice. And then battle tanks, you can have Russes. And boy, howdy, are Lehman Russes tough. 2+ saves, +2 close assault factor, but only morale 4+. You almost right away want to get the Baneblades so you can make that armored company, just so you can make one of them a tank commander and expand them out. Their guns have huge range over the Marine guns, 32 inches for the Vanquisher, 22 for the Las Cannons and Lehman Russes. So lots of ops stuff. And they are chain of command though, but they do have the Explorer adaptation, and the Vanguard get forward deployment. The Sentinels do, so they get a free move. Your Malcadors, super tough out of the box because they have 2 wounds each, and they're super heavy tanks basically for 165 points. Tons of gun options, and once again, much more range than the Marine versions. And then finally your super heavy vehicle, which is the Baneblade. It never actually says Baneblade on here anywhere, it just says Auxilia super heavy. So I guess it could kind of be anything. It's either a Hellhammer, a Baneblade, or I think that's it, just whatever those 2. Yeah, it's Hellhammers and Baneblades. But they also have chain of command. Everything here has chain of command, so they need someone to tell them what to do. Air support, 80 points for a Thunderbolt. Avenger Strike Fighters are 85 points. An Auxilia Lightning is 85 points. A Marauder Bomber is 85 points. You almost want to just go straight to the Bomber because you know you're going to die to the Marine planes, so let them get in a good hit on the way. Because the Bomber's wing bombs can do a significant amount of damage. You can get to spend a lot of points really fast on them too. And the Colossus, the Pathfinder, and the Destroyer can all be upgrades to the basic Bomber Squadron. Finally, the only transport option is the Arvis Lighter. So you get flyers as your transport option, which is interesting that you don't have any sort of baby transports yet. I assume they're coming in the future at 12 points per model. They are ungunned though. So they are kind of a liability after they drop you off, but they're at least relatively cheap at 12 points per model. It just means you can get forward onto the table relatively quickly. So like I said, starting off, because you don't have access to the Rapiers and the Tarantulas yet, I do think that you're probably just going to want to add Baneblades, because for 200 points, you're jumping almost 1,000 points for this stuff. If you can get your hands on any of the flyers, or if you have old Aeronautic Imperialis stuff, that's probably the best way to get to the 1,000 points. And honestly, of the 2 armies in the starter set, the Auxilia have way more points going in. So Baneblades on a plane will get you all the way to the finish line and let you have 2 formations and 1,000 points. And then you'll be able to use one of those Titans as your support option. Because like I said in my other review, the granularity of the support choice isn't very high. Knights start at 180 for Questoris Knight banners and go into 215 to 285 points per model. That's one little 40 mil Knight, which I kind of like that they're that tough because they are actually quite powerful in the game. And then a single Warhound Titan is 330 points with no real point value granularity. So you can't use the Warhounds that come in the box until you've got at least 1,050 points of stuff in the army. And so there it is. That's my GMG review of the Auxilia. I do think they are going to dominate the ground. Their tanks are super tough. And they have an ability to kind of scale up faster. So if you are splitting the box set or swapping halves of somebody, you're going to get to 1,000 points way quicker and be able to use those Titans and unlock those support choices, I think, faster than anybody else. So tune in for the third part of this. I'm going to go over the Imperialis Knight stuff, the Titans, and all the support options. And we'll see you for the how to play Legions Imperialis as well today. Until then, I'm Ash. Happy gaming.
Hey folks, I hope you enjoyed that video, and thank you for watching. If you want to find out more about me and see what I'm up to, you can check me out on Facebook at facebook.com/outofthebasement-into-the-streets or Instagram at Guerrilla Miniature Games. You can also find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Guerrilla Miniature Games, and of course, you can now follow on Patreon if you don't want to back and see what's new. Thanks for watching.